This is one of those paintings where there is far more than meets the eye. The work is known as the Mérode Altarpiece, and while it may seem like an easy image to take in, I can assure you it is extremely difficult to read. Some details grab your attention right away. The almost sculptural folds of the garments, the architectural corners that feel completely real, the near-obsessive faithfulness with which the interior of this house has been painted. There is no question the work is extraordinary, but beyond the artist's remarkable skill, something else is hiding beneath the surface. Symbols, metaphors, and visual clues scattered throughout, waiting to be discovered by a careful observer. This painting was created almost 600 years ago, and to this day, we are still discovering the hidden clues concealed within it. When we begin to analyze the work, we see that the central panel of the triptych depicts the Annunciation, the moment when the angel Gabriel appeared to Mary to tell her she would be the mother of Christ. But before we get there, I want us to stop at the right panel. This section of the painting shows Joseph in his carpentry workshop. The space is narrow, the windows open onto an urban landscape most likely inspired by the Flemish city of Liège in present-day Belgium, and everything in that room has been painted with a detail that is almost unsettling. The perspective of the room, the tools rendered with surgical precision, the shadows, the shutters hooked to the ceiling, even the rust stains left by the rain are there. But there is something in this scene that has caught the attention of experts for centuries. Look at the windowsill, just behind Joseph. There is a strange object sitting there. It resembles a butter mold, but historians have identified it as a bird trap. From the position of its parts, the taut string and the fallen cage, it is clear the trap has just snapped shut, most likely with a small bird inside. But that is not all. On the workbench beside Joseph, there is another trap. This one a mousetrap, only half built. Now, there is something else that deepens this mystery. In medieval painting, it was uncommon to see Joseph depicted in Annunciation scenes. The reason is simple. Mary and Joseph were not yet married. The convention was to show Mary alone in her garden or private chamber, receiving the angel in solitude. So what is Joseph doing here, and what do his traps have to do with any of this? The most widely accepted explanation for all of this is that the mousetrap is a metaphor for the devil caught through the crucifixion of Christ. The idea was first identified by the art historian Meyer Shapiro in an essay he wrote about this altarpiece. His argument goes like this: the devil rejoiced at the death of Christ on the cross, but in dying, Christ redeemed humanity from sin, and so the devil realized he had fallen into a trap, like a mouse lured in by bait. This was not a new idea. St. Augustine had developed it centuries earlier in a sermon, arguing that the cross was the devil's mousetrap, and that the bait used to catch him was the death of the Lord himself. So Joseph building a mousetrap while Mary conceives miraculously is not a coincidence. It is the artist's visual commentary on what is to come. But there is more. Look at Joseph's posture. He is twisted uncomfortably over his bench, holding a drill that clearly cannot be operated with one hand, and the bench itself is cluttered, covered in tools piled on top of one another, far too large to have made that small mousetrap. A 15th century viewer would have noticed something in that disorder. According to art historian Malcolm Russell, that arrangement was not random. The two overlapping sets of tools each form a cross shape, and together with a third tool sitting at the back of the bench, those three forms suggest something specific: the 3 crosses of Calvary. And Joseph's strange posture with the drill also has an explanation. He is boring holes into a wooden board to insert metal spikes. In medieval tradition, that instrument was known as a spiked shackle, a torture device hung from the neck and left to hang in agony between the ankles. Joseph is not making furniture. He is, unknowingly, preparing the instruments of Christ's passion. And what about the bird trap on the windowsill? That also carries meaning. Inside the trap there is a bird, and that bird does not represent condemnation but redemption. As Psalm 124 says, "Our soul has escaped like a bird from the snare of the fowler." It is as if the artist extended an invitation to look carefully, because there is more than meets the eye. That is exactly what happens in the central panel. Here we see the Annunciation, the moment when Mary receives the visit of the angel Gabriel. And now, with everything we have seen in Joseph's workshop, it begins to make sense why the artist chose to place this sacred moment in such an ordinary setting, a 15th century Flemish house with a carpenter's workshop next door. In fact, this painting is one of the earliest depictions of a Northern European interior in an Annunciation scene, a sacred moment set inside an everyday space. But the details keep adding up. In most Annunciation paintings, a dove appears to represent the Holy Spirit, descending in a ray of light toward Mary. But here there is no dove. Instead, a miniature Christ child flies down toward Mary, holding a cross. He passes through an oculus, a circular window, moving through the glass without breaking it, a visual reference to the miracle of the Virgin Conception. And if we look toward the back of the room, tucked into a niche that is easy to miss but meticulously painted, there is a metal pitcher hanging beside a towel. This is an aquamanile, a brass jug designed for washing hands. The name comes from the Latin aqua, water, and manus, hand. The spouts of this pitcher are shaped like animals, most likely bears or pigs. The niche where it hangs is called a lavabo, the same name given to the ritual hand washing performed before Mass. Now let us look at Mary. She is at home, reading her book of hours. Her hair is loose, she is relaxed, and then the angel appears. On the table, there is a recently extinguished candle. It is believed this candle represents the Holy Spirit in place of the traditional dove. The artist drew on an idea circulating among some medieval writers, that the Holy Spirit descended upon the apostles like a rush of wind, and with that wind, the flame goes out, and on that same table, a vase holding a lily, a symbol of the Virgin's purity. But this vase carries something more. It is decorated with engravings that some historians have deciphered as Latin and Hebrew letters, a possible hidden signature, decamping, attributed to the artist himself. Now, let us look at the left panel. But before we do, I want to remind you that if you would like to own a reproduction of this work, you can find it in our catalogue. The link in the description will take you to this altarpiece and many other works available for you to collect and start building your own art collection. Shipping is free worldwide, and as you can see in this video, our reproductions can turn your home into your own personal museum. I will leave the link in the description so you can place your order once you finish watching. Now, let us continue. In the left panel, we see the donor, the man who most likely commissioned this work and asked to be included in it. He appears kneeling, as if watching the Annunciation through a half-open door. Beside him, his wife holds a rosary, and behind them, at the garden gate, a messenger waits, ready to carry the news across the city. The people we see in this panel are not passive spectators, they are part of the testimony. And there, in my opinion, lies the heart of all of this. The metaphors, the symbols, the traps, the lily, the extinguished candle, the child passing through the glass. All of it is part of one attempt to capture the sacred in physical form, to make visible something that has no shape. What this triptych leaves us with is not simply a religious scene, but the evidence of an imagination that worked with a precision and ambition rarely matched in the history of art. One of the most complex and accomplished paintings Robert Campin ever made, and one that, if we keep looking, most likely still has things to reveal. I would love to read your thoughts on this painting in the comments, and if you noticed any detail that I did not mention in the video, please leave it below. Thank you for watching until the end, and I will see you in the next one.